I think I didn't do anything wrong, just tried to fix my marriage the only way I knew how. That's why I was so shocked when I got a thick envelope from a lawyer the next morning. My husband had already made his move. All I did was ask for a little help, but suddenly I'm the villain and he's gone. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The kitchen clock read 11:47 p.m. when I finally decided to address what had been eating at me for months. Adam sat hunched over his laptop at our dining table, the blue glow illuminating the dark circles under his eyes. Empty coffee cups and scattered project files created a barrier between us, one that seemed to grow wider every day. "Adam, we need to talk," I said, leaning against the doorframe in my silk nightgown. I'd bought it 3 weeks ago, hoping to reignite something between us. He hadn't even noticed. "Can it wait, Leo? This presentation is due first thing tomorrow." His fingers never stopped typing, treating me like background noise in his own home. I walked over and gently closed his laptop. "Oh, no, it can't wait. When was the last time we actually talked?" "Really talked?" He sighed and rubbed his temples. "We talk every day, about Sophie's school, the mortgage, your mother's. That's not what I mean, and you know it." I pulled out the chair next to him, close enough to smell his familiar cologne mixed with exhaustion. "When did we stop being intimate? When did we stop connecting?" Adam's jaw tightened. "Leo, I'm tired. I've been working 60-hour weeks trying to keep this promotion on track. Can we please discuss our relationship when I'm not dead on my feet?" "You're always dead on your feet." The words came out sharper than I intended. That's exactly the problem. You come home, eat dinner in silence, work until midnight, then fall asleep before I even get to bed. We're like roommates, not married couples. "What do you want me to say? I'm doing my best to provide for this family." "I want you to want me again." I reached for his hand, but he pulled away to open his laptop again. "I want you to look at me the way you used to. Remember when we couldn't keep our hands off each other?" "That was 15 years ago, Leo. We're not college kids anymore." The dismissal in his voice cut deep. "So that's it? We're just going to accept that passion dies after a certain age? That marriage means giving up on physical connection?" I didn't say that. He was typing again, multitasking our marriage crisis like another item on his to-do list. "You didn't have to. Your actions speak loud enough." I stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked our perfectly manicured suburban lawn. "Maybe the problem isn't that we're older. Maybe the problem is that you don't know how to please a woman anymore." That got his attention. Adam's typing stopped. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. When was the last time you made an effort? Really tried to make me feel desired? You've gotten lazy, Adam, comfortable. You think because we're married, you don't have to try anymore." "I work my ass off for this family." "Financially, yes, but what about emotionally? What about physically? When did you stop caring about my needs?" Adam slammed his laptop shut. "Your needs? What about my needs, Leo? What about the need to keep our health insurance, to pay Sophie's tuition, to maintain this house you insisted we buy? Those are responsibilities, not needs. I'm talking about intimacy, connection, the things that make a marriage more than just a business partnership. And what exactly do you suggest? That I quit my job so we can spend more time gazing into each other's eyes?" I turned from the window, an idea forming that I thought was brilliant at the time. "No, I suggest you learn from someone who knows what they're doing." "What's that supposed to mean?" Simon always knew how to make me feel wanted. He paid attention, he listened, he made an effort. The color drained from Adam's face. "Are you seriously bringing up your ex-boyfriend right now?" "I'm just saying, maybe you could learn something from him, about how to treat a woman, how to make her feel alive." "This is unbelievable." Adam stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "You're comparing me to Simon Ball, the guy who cheated on you with 3 different women? That's not the point." "What is the point, Leo? Because right now it sounds like you're telling me I'm a failure as a husband because I don't act like your ex." I could see I was losing him, so I softened my approach. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to save us. We're dying, Adam. This marriage is dying, and you're too buried in spreadsheets to notice." He stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Maybe we could invite Simon over, just to talk. He could give you some pointers, help you understand what I need." The silence that followed was deafening. Upstairs, I heard Sophie's bedroom door creak. She'd probably been awakened by our raised voices. My 9-year-old daughter had been having trouble sleeping lately, complaining of headaches and stomach aches that the doctor said were stress-related. You want to invite your ex-boyfriend over to critique my performance as a husband. Not critique. Help. There's a difference. Adam picked up his laptop and tucked it under his arm. I need to think about this. Adam, wait. But he was already walking toward the stairs. Good night, Leo. I stood alone in the kitchen, my phone buzzing with a text message. It was from my mother. How did the talk go with Adam? Remember, men need clear directions sometimes. I looked at the message and felt a surge of validation. My mother was right. Adam did need direction. He needed help understanding what a woman wanted. And I knew exactly who could provide that guidance. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Simon's number. We'd reconnected on social media a few months ago, innocent enough, just old friends catching up. He was single again, working as a personal trainer, looking better than ever in his profile photos. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Was I really going to do this? Just a friendly favor, I typed. Would love to catch up soon. Are you free this week? I hit send before I could change my mind. Within minutes, my phone lit up with his response. Always time for you, beautiful. What did you have in mind? I was still smiling at his message when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Adam appeared in the doorway, his face unreadable. What's so funny? He asked, nodding toward my phone. Nothing, I said, quickly closing the message. Just social media stuff. But the way he looked at me, like he was seeing something he'd never noticed before, made me realize that maybe, just maybe, my plan was already working. The next morning, I met my mother at our usual cafe downtown. Linda Pritchard had always been my biggest supporter, especially when it came to my marriage struggles. At 58, she maintained the sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude that had gotten her through her own divorce 20 years earlier. You look tired, sweetheart, she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. How did things go with Adam last night? I filled her in on our conversation, watching her expression grow more disapproving with each detail. That man takes you for granted, she said, shaking her head. 15 years of marriage and he can't be bothered to make an effort? You're still a beautiful woman, Leo. You deserve better. I know. That's why I'm thinking about asking Simon to help. My mother's eyebrows shot up. Simon Ball, your ex from college? He always understood me. He knew how to make me feel special, appreciated. Maybe if Adam could see what he's missing. Brilliant, my mother said, leaning forward conspiratorially. Men need competition to remember what they have. Adam's gotten too comfortable. A little wake-up call might be exactly what he needs. Her validation gave me the confidence I needed. After leaving the cafe, I drove to my office at Hartwell Insurance, where I worked as a claims adjuster. The job was routine, predictable, much like my marriage had become. But today felt different. Today felt like the beginning of something new. I waited until lunch to call Simon. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Warm, confident, with that slight rasp that used to make my heart race. Leo Markham, he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I was hoping you'd call. I have a proposition for you, I said, closing my office door for privacy. It might sound a little unusual, but hear me out. I explained the situation carefully, framing it as a favor to both Adam and me. He's lost confidence, I said. He doesn't know how to connect with me anymore. I thought maybe you could talk to him, share some insights about what women want. Simon was quiet for a moment. You want me to give your husband dating advice? Relationship advice? Marriage advice. You always understood me better than anyone. Maybe you could help him understand me, too? I don't know, Leo. That seems like something you two should work out between yourselves, or with a counselor. We tried counseling last year. Adam said it was a waste of money. That was true, though I left out the part where I'd been the one to cancel the sessions after the therapist suggested I might be contributing to our communication problems. I just think if he could see what he's missing, if he could understand what I need, it might save our marriage. And you were always so good at making me feel wanted. The flattery worked. Simon's tone shifted, became more interested. What exactly would this involve? Just dinner, maybe you could come over, we could all talk. You could share some perspective on what makes a relationship work, what makes a woman feel appreciated. And Adam's okay with this? I hesitated for just a moment. He's open to getting help. He knows we're struggling. It wasn't exactly a lie. Adam had said he needed to think about it, which could be interpreted as openness. All right, Simon said finally. I guess I could do that, for old time's sake. When were you thinking? How about Friday night? Sophie will be at a sleepover so we can talk freely. Friday works. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, I said, feeling a thrill of excitement. And maybe some of that charm I remember. He laughed. I'll see what I can do. After hanging up, I felt lighter than I had in months. This was going to work. Adam would see what real attention looked like, what genuine interest in a woman felt like. He'd realize what he'd been neglecting and step up his game. I was so absorbed in planning the evening that I didn't notice my coworker Janet standing in my doorway until she knocked. "Everything okay in here?" she asked. "You look, I don't know, different." "Just working through some personal stuff," I said. "Good personal stuff, I hope. You've seemed stressed lately." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Adam's sister, Jenna. "Hey, heard through the grapevine that you and Adam are having some rough patches. Just want you to know I'm here if you need to talk." I frowned. How had Jenna heard anything? Adam wasn't the type to share personal problems, especially not with his family. I quickly typed back, "Thanks, but we're working things out. Nothing we can't handle." But Jenna's next message made my stomach clench. "Janet from your office mentioned you seemed upset lately, and Mom saw Adam at the grocery store yesterday looking pretty rough. Are you sure everything's okay?" I stared at the phone. How did everyone suddenly know our business? And why was Adam's mother, Ruth, monitoring his appearance and reporting back to Jenna? I decided to call Ruth directly. At 61, Adam's mother had never particularly liked me, though she'd always been polite. She answered on the first ring. "Leo, I was wondering when I'd hear from you. Jenna mentioned you saw Adam at the store. Is everything all right?" "That's what I should be asking you." He looked exhausted, distracted. When I asked how things were at home, he just changed the subject. "We're fine, Ruth. Just some normal marriage stuff. Nothing to worry about." Normal marriage stuff doesn't usually leave a man looking like he hasn't slept in weeks. I felt a flash of irritation. Adam's been working a lot. It's stressful. Ruth's tone suggested she didn't buy my explanation. "Well, I hope you're taking good care of him. And Sophie. That little girl has been very quiet lately during our phone calls." "Sophie's fine too. We're all fine." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Sophie had been withdrawn lately, spending more time in her room, complaining of headaches that seemed to coincide with the tension between Adam and me. After ending the call with Ruth, I felt my earlier excitement dimming. Maybe I should reconsider the plan with Simon. Maybe there was another way to get through to Adam. Then my phone buzzed with another message from Simon. "Looking forward to Friday. It's been too long since we've had a real conversation." The anticipation in his message reignited my resolve. This was the right thing to do. Adam needed to see what he was missing, and I needed to feel desired again. Simon could provide both. I spent the rest of the afternoon planning the evening. I'd make Adam's favorite dinner, set the mood with candles and wine, and let the conversation flow naturally. Simon would charm us both, Adam would see what real attention looked like, and our marriage would be stronger for it. What could possibly go wrong? That evening, I waited until Adam seemed relaxed before bringing up Friday's plan. He was reading on the couch while Sophie did homework at the coffee table. "I invited Simon over for dinner Friday," I said casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Adam looked up from his book. "You did what?" "Remember our conversation last night? About getting some perspective on our relationship? I thought it would be helpful." Sophie glanced up from her math homework, sensing the tension. "Daddy, who's Simon?" she asked. "Nobody important, sweetheart," Adam said, his voice tight. "Leo, can I talk to you in the kitchen?" Once we were alone, Adam's calm façade cracked. "You invited him without asking me. You said you'd think about it. I took that as a yes. That's not what I said, and you know it. Adam, please, just give it a chance. What's the worst that could happen?" Looking back now, I realize that question would haunt me for months to come. Friday evening arrived with an unseasonable chill that seemed to seep through our house despite the heating. I'd spent the afternoon preparing Adam's favorite meal, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables, and setting the dining room table with our wedding china. Candles flickered in crystal holders, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Sophie had left for her sleepover at 4 p.m., her overnight bag packed, and her goodbye hug lingering longer than usual. "Are you and Daddy fighting?" she'd asked as I walked her to her friend's car. "We're just working through some grown-up stuff, baby. Nothing for you to worry about." But the way she looked at me, with those wise eyes that seemed too old for her 9 years, made me wonder if I was fooling anyone but myself. Adam had been quiet all week, going through the motions of normal life while maintaining a careful distance. He came home from work, ate dinner, helped Sophie with homework, and disappeared into his home office until bedtime. When I tried to discuss the evening's plans, He'd change the subject or find an excuse to leave the room. At 7:30, I was putting the finishing touches on my makeup when the doorbell rang. Simon stood on our front porch looking exactly like his social media photos, tall, lean, with silver threading through his dark hair in a way that made him look distinguished rather than old. His smile was the same one that had captivated me in college. "Leo," he said, pulling me into a hug that lasted a beat too long. "You look incredible." "Thank you. Come in, please. Adam's just finishing up some work." I led Simon into our living room, acutely aware of how he filled the space with his presence. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never doubted his own appeal, examining our family photos and commenting on how beautiful our home was. "You've done well for yourself," he said, his hand briefly touching my lower back as he leaned in to look at a picture of Sophie. "Motherhood suits you." Before I could respond, Adam appeared in the doorway. The contrast between the two men was stark. Simon relaxed and smiling, Adam tense and guarded. "Simon," Adam said, extending his hand. "It's been a long time." "Too long," Simon replied, gripping Adam's hand with the kind of firm handshake that seemed designed to prove something. "Thanks for having me over. Leo tells me you two are working on strengthening your connection." I saw Adam's jaw clench slightly. "Something like that." Dinner started awkwardly, with forced conversation about work and the weather. I'd hoped the wine would help everyone relax, but Adam barely touched his glass while Simon seemed increasingly comfortable, complimenting everything from the food to the house to my dress. "Leo always was an amazing cook," Simon said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "Remember those dinner parties we used to throw in college? You'd spend all day in the kitchen, making sure everything was perfect." "I remember," I said, enjoying the warmth of his attention. "Those were good times?" Adam set down his fork. "How exactly is this supposed to help our marriage?" "Well," Simon said, leaning back in his chair, "I think it's important for couples to remember what attracted them to each other in the first place. Leo's always been someone who thrives on appreciation. She needs to feel seen, valued, desired." "And you're an expert on what my wife needs?" The edge in Adam's voice should have been a warning, but I was too caught up in Simon's validation to notice. "I'm not an expert on your wife," Simon said smoothly, "but I know Leo. I know she's the kind of woman who lights up when someone really pays attention to her, when someone makes her feel like the most important person in the room." As if to demonstrate, Simon turned to me with that focused intensity I remembered. "Tell me about your work, Leo. Are you still handling those complex fraud cases?" For the next 20 minutes, Simon asked thoughtful questions about my job, my interests, my thoughts on everything from local politics to our daughter's school. It was intoxicating to have someone hang on my every word, to feel genuinely heard and appreciated. Adam sat silently through most of it, his expression growing darker. "This is exactly what I mean," I said, turning to Adam. "When was the last time you asked me about my day and actually listened to the answer?" "I ask you about your day every day." "No, you ask if anything interesting happened, and when I start to tell you, you check your phone or start thinking about work. Simon's been here for 2 hours, and he already knows more about my current projects than you do." "Maybe because I've been working 16-hour days trying to keep us financially stable." Simon held up his hand. "Hey, I don't want to cause problems. Maybe we should move this conversation somewhere more comfortable." I stood up, feeling emboldened by the wine and Simon's attention. "Good idea. Let's go upstairs. We can talk more privately." The look on Adam's face should have stopped me, but I was too caught up in the moment, too intoxicated by feeling desired again, to pay attention to my husband's obvious discomfort. In our bedroom, Simon sat on the edge of our bed while I settled into the reading chair by the window. Adam remained standing by the door, looking like he wanted to bolt. "The thing is," Simon said, his voice taking on a more intimate tone, "Leo needs to feel cherished. She's not the kind of woman you can take for granted. She needs romance, attention, passion." "And how exactly do you suggest I provide that?" Adam asked. "Start by really seeing her," Simon said, his eyes never leaving mine. "Look at her, Adam. Really look at her. She's beautiful, intelligent, fascinating. When was the last time you told her that?" "I tell her she's beautiful." "When? In passing? While you're thinking about something else?" Simon stood up and walked over to me, extending his hand. "May I?" I took his hand and let him pull me to my feet. Standing close to him, I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from his body. "This is how you look at a woman," Simon said to Adam, his hands resting lightly on my waist. "Like she's the only person in the world, like you can't believe you're lucky enough to be in her presence." The way Simon looked at me in that moment made me feel like I was 21 again, like I was the most desirable woman alive. It had been so long since anyone had looked at me that way. "Leo," Simon said softly, "you deserve to be worshipped. You deserve to have someone who can't keep their hands off you, who thinks about you constantly, who makes you feel alive." His hands moved to cup my face, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me. The anticipation was electric, intoxicating. "This is insane," Adam said from behind us. "This is my bedroom, my wife, my marriage." I turned to face him, still standing close to Simon. "And this is what it looks like when someone actually desires me, when someone makes an effort." "You want me to compete with your ex-boyfriend? In our bedroom?" "I want you to want me the way he does. I want you to look at me the way he's looking at me right now." Adam stared at us for a long moment, me standing in Simon's arms, both of us looking at him expectantly. Then something shifted in his expression, something cold and final. "You know what, Leo? You're right. You deserve someone who looks at you like that, someone who makes you feel alive." He turned and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" I called after him. "To get some air. You two obviously don't need me here." The bedroom door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than a slam. Simon's arms tightened around me. "He'll come around. Sometimes men need to see what they're losing before they appreciate what they have." But even as Simon held me, even as he whispered about how beautiful I was, I felt the first stirring of unease. The look in Adam's eyes as he'd left the room wasn't jealousy or determination to fight for me. It was resignation. And something else I couldn't quite identify. Something that looked almost like relief. 20 minutes later, when Simon and I came downstairs, Adam was gone. His briefcase was missing from the hall table, and his keys were no longer hanging on the hook by the garage door. "He'll be back," I told Simon, but my voice sounded uncertain even to my own ears. "Of course he will," Simon agreed, pulling me close for a goodbye hug that lasted longer than it should have. This was exactly what he needed to see. "Trust me, Leo, by tomorrow he'll be fighting to win you back." But as I watched Simon's taillights disappear down our street, and as the hours ticked by with no word from Adam, I began to wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake. The house felt different without him in it. Emptier, colder, and for the first time all evening, I felt truly alone. By Monday morning, Adam still hadn't come home. He'd sent a single text Saturday afternoon. "Staying at a hotel for a few days. Need space to think. We'll pick up Sophie from her sleepover and bring her home Sunday evening." True to his word, he'd returned Sophie at 6 p.m. Sunday, staying just long enough to help her with homework and tuck her into bed. When I tried to talk to him, he'd been polite but distant, treating me like a stranger in my own home. "Daddy seems sad," Sophie had said as I was making her breakfast Monday morning. "Is he sick?" "He's just working through some things, baby. Sometimes grown-ups need time to think." But I could see the confusion and worry in my daughter's eyes, and it made my chest tight with guilt I wasn't ready to acknowledge. At work, I found myself distracted, replaying Friday night over and over. Had I pushed too hard? Maybe I should have been more subtle, let the evening unfold more naturally. But Simon had been right. Adam needed to see what he was missing. He needed to understand what real attention looked like. During my lunch break, I called my mother to vent. "He's being dramatic," she said dismissively. "Men hate having their shortcomings pointed out, but sometimes it's the only way they learn. Give him a few days to sulk, then he'll come crawling back with promises to do better. What if he doesn't? Then he's a fool, and you're better off without him. You're 34 years old, Leo. You're beautiful, successful, and you deserve a man who appreciates you. If Adam can't step up, maybe it's time to consider your other options." Her words were meant to be supportive, but they felt hollow. I didn't want other options. I wanted my husband to fight for me, to show me he cared enough to try. Tuesday brought the first signs that our marital problems weren't as private as I'd hoped. Janet from accounting stopped by my office with a concerned expression. "Hey, is everything okay? I heard through the grapevine that Adam's been staying at the Marriott downtown." My stomach dropped. "How did you hear that?" "My cousin works at the front desk. She mentioned seeing him check in Saturday night. Said he looked pretty rough." By Wednesday, the whispers had spread throughout the office. I caught fragments of conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, saw the way people looked at me with a mixture of pity and curiosity. That afternoon, I made a decision that I now realize was catastrophic. Instead of trying to control the narrative privately, I decided to get ahead of it publicly. I posted on Facebook, "Sometimes marriages go through rough patches. Working through some communication issues with Adam, but we're committed to figuring things out. Thanks to those who've reached out with support." The post was meant to sound mature and measured, but it opened the floodgates. Within hours, I had dozens of comments and private messages from friends, coworkers, and acquaintances offering advice, sharing their own relationship struggles, and asking for more details. I found myself responding to each message, gradually sharing more of my perspective. To my college friend Sarah, Adam's been so focused on work that he's forgotten we're supposed to be partners, not roommates. To my neighbor Michelle, I've tried everything to reconnect with him, but he just doesn't seem interested in putting in the effort anymore. To my cousin Jessica, I even brought in an outside perspective to help him understand what I need, but he couldn't handle an honest conversation about our relationship. Each response felt justified in the moment. I was hurt, confused, and desperately seeking validation that I wasn't the villain in this story. Thursday morning brought a text from Adam's sister Jenna that made my blood run cold. We need to talk. Coffee at 2 p.m. at Brewster's. Don't bring backup. Jenna was waiting for me when I arrived, her usually warm demeanor replaced by something I'd never seen before. Cold fury. Sit down, Leo. I slid into the booth across from her, my hands shaking slightly as I reached for my coffee cup. I've been watching your little social media campaign, she said without preamble. Very enlightening. I don't know what you mean. Don't. Her voice was sharp. I've seen your posts, your comments, your responses to people's messages. You're painting my brother as some kind of neglectful husband while making yourself out to be the victim. I'm not. You invited your ex-boyfriend to your house, to your bedroom, while your daughter was at a sleepover and your husband was forced to watch you flirt with another man. My mouth went dry. How do you know about that? Because Adam finally talked to someone. Mom was worried sick about him, so she went to his hotel Sunday morning. Found him sitting on the floor of the bathroom, crying like I haven't seen since Dad died. The image hit me like a physical blow. He was crying. You humiliated him, Leo, in his own home, in his own bedroom, with his own wife. And now you're on social media acting like he's the problem? I was trying to save our marriage. I was trying to show him what I need. By having another man put his hands on you? By letting your ex-boyfriend tell your husband how to touch his own wife? Jenna's voice was rising, drawing stares from other customers. Are you completely insane? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And the worst part? You still don't see what you did wrong. I felt tears stinging my eyes. I love Adam. I was trying to help him understand. You were trying to hurt him. Maybe not consciously, but that's what you did. And now you're doubling down by trashing him online. I'm not trashing him. I'm just being honest about our problems. Jenna stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. You know what? I used to feel sorry for you. I thought maybe you were just unhappy and didn't know how to communicate that, but this conversation has shown me exactly who you are. She stood up, throwing a $5 bill on the table. Stay away from my family, Leo. All of us. You've done enough damage. As she walked away, I felt the first real crack in my certainty that I was the wronged party in this situation. But instead of examining that feeling, I pushed it down and reached for my phone. I needed to call Simon. He'd understand. He'd remind me that I deserved better than a husband who couldn't handle honest feedback about our relationship. But when Simon answered, his tone was different than it had been Friday night. Leo, hey, I was actually going to call you. I'm so glad. I really need someone to talk to. Adam's family is turning against me, and I feel like I'm going crazy. Yeah, about that. I think maybe we should cool things down for a while. My heart sank. What do you mean? I mean, I didn't realize how serious things were between you and Adam. I thought you were just going through a rough patch, but it sounds like your marriage is really falling apart. So? You said I deserved better. You said I deserved someone who appreciated me. I was trying to help you work things out with your husband, not break up your marriage. I don't want to be responsible for destroying a family. You're not destroying anything. You're helping me see what's possible. Leo, listen to yourself. You're talking about your marriage like it's already over. Is that really what you want? The question hung in the air between us, and for the first time in days, I didn't have a ready answer. After Simon hung up, I sat in my car in the coffee shop parking lot, staring at my phone. The Facebook notifications were still coming in, friends and acquaintances weighing in on my marriage, offering advice and support and judgment in equal measure. I scrolled through the comments, looking for validation, but instead found myself seeing them through Jenna's eyes, through Adam's eyes. Had I really aired our private problems to hundreds of people? Had I really made him look like the villain while positioning myself as the long-suffering wife? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is attorney David Walsh. I represent your husband, Adam Markham. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience to schedule a meeting regarding your marriage. I stared at the message until the words blurred together. Adam had hired a lawyer. The law office of Walsh & Associates occupied the entire 15th floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel and intimidating efficiency. I'd spent 3 days trying to reach Adam directly before finally accepting that he was only communicating through his attorney now. David Walsh was younger than I'd expected, probably in his early 40s, with the kind of quiet confidence that comes from winning more cases than you lose. He gestured for me to sit across from his mahogany desk, where a thick manila folder waited with my name on it. "Thank you for coming in, Mrs. Markham. I know this situation is difficult for everyone involved." "I just want to talk to my husband," I said. "This is all getting blown out of proportion." "I'm afraid Mr. Markham has made it clear that all communication needs to go through me at this point." Walsh opened the folder and pulled out a document. "He's filed for legal separation, with the intention of pursuing divorce if certain conditions aren't met." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Divorce? Over one dinner party?" "Mrs. Markham, I think we both know this goes beyond one dinner party." He slid a photograph across the desk. It showed Simon's car in our driveway, time-stamped at 7:47 p.m. last Friday. "How did you get this?" "Your home security system. Mr. Markham had access to the footage." Another photo joined the first, this one showing Simon leaving at 11:23 p.m. "Nearly 4 hours. After your daughter was conveniently sent to a sleepover." My mouth felt dry. "We were just talking." "In your bedroom, according to the audio from your home security system." Walsh's expression remained neutral, but I caught a flicker of distaste. "Would you like me to play some excerpts?" "There's audio?" "High-quality audio, including your conversation about how your ex-boyfriend deserved to worship you and how he couldn't keep his hands off you." Walsh leaned back in his chair. "There's also the part where you told your husband that Mr. Ball knew how to make you feel alive in ways he apparently couldn't." I felt sick. "I didn't mean—" "Mrs. Markham, I've been practicing family law for 15 years. I've seen marriages end for much less than what's on these recordings." He pulled out another set of documents. "Bank statements showing multiple lunches with Mr. Ball over the past 3 months, phone records showing daily text exchanges, social media screenshots of your recent posts portraying your husband as neglectful and yourself as a victim." Each piece of evidence felt like another nail in my coffin. Adam was tracking me. "Mr. Markham became concerned about changes in your behavior and started documenting incidents. The late-night texting, the secretive phone calls, the sudden interest in your appearance, the criticism of his efforts to provide for the family." Walsh's tone remained professional, but I could feel his judgment. "He consulted with me several weeks ago, actually. I advised him to try counseling first. He never mentioned counseling. Because you'd already canceled the sessions you'd started last year, claiming the therapist was biased against you." I had no response to that. It was true, though I'd convinced myself at the time that the therapist hadn't understood my perspective. "What does he want?" I asked finally. Walsh pulled out a thick document. "Immediate legal separation with the following terms. He maintains primary custody of Sophie, with supervised visitation for you initially. He keeps the house and primary assets, though you'll receive spousal support. You agree to cease all contact with Simon Ball and refrain from bringing him around your daughter. You also agree to stop discussing your marriage on social media." "Supervised visitation? She's my daughter." "Mrs. Markham, your daughter has been showing signs of stress and anxiety that coincide with the deterioration of your marriage. Her school counselor has documented several incidents of emotional distress." The room seemed to spin. "Sophie's been talking to the school counselor? About her parents fighting, about feeling unsafe when voices are raised, about Daddy being sad all the time." Walsh's voice softened slightly. "Mr. Markham's primary concern is protecting his daughter from further trauma." "I would never hurt Sophie." "Perhaps not intentionally, but children are affected by their parents' choices, even when those parents don't realize it." He slid another document across the desk. "This is a timeline of events over the past 3 months, compiled from various sources. Your renewed contact with Mr. Ball, your increasingly critical comments about your husband, your social media activity, and the culminating event last Friday." I scanned the timeline, seeing my actions laid out in black and white. When presented this way, stripped of my justifications and internal narrative, it looked damning. "I was trying to save my marriage," I said weakly, "by inviting your ex-boyfriend to your bedroom while your husband watched, by humiliating him in his own home." Walsh leaned forward. "Mrs. Markham, I need you to understand something. In 15 years of practice, I've never seen a case where someone has documented their own infidelity so thoroughly." "I didn't have an affair." "Emotional infidelity is still infidelity, and based on the audio from Friday night, you came very close to crossing physical lines as well." The weight of my situation was finally sinking in. What if I don't agree to these terms? Then Mr. Markham will file for divorce and seek full custody. With the evidence he's compiled, he has a strong case for proving adultery and emotional abuse. You could lose everything, including your daughter. I stared at the separation agreement, the legal language swimming before my eyes. Can I have time to think about it? You have 48 hours. After that, Mr. Markham will assume you're choosing the more adversarial route. As I stood to leave, Walsh handed me one final document. This is a restraining order against Mr. Ball having any contact with you or your family. It's already been served. What? Mr. Markham was very clear. If you choose to continue your relationship with Mr. Ball, he'll pursue full custody immediately. No negotiation. I walked out of that office feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Everything I'd thought I was doing to improve my marriage had instead destroyed it. Every choice I'd made thinking I was the victim had actually made me the villain. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. How did the meeting go? Did you put that lawyer in his place? I stared at the message, remembering all the conversations where she'd encouraged me to demand better from Adam, to show him what he was missing, to make him fight for me. For the first time, I wondered if my mother's advice had been leading me down the wrong path all along. But it was too late for wondering. Adam was gone, my marriage was over, and I had 48 hours to decide whether to accept his terms or lose everything, including my daughter. The courthouse mediation room was smaller than I'd expected, with fluorescent lighting that made everyone look pale and tired. I sat across from Adam for the first time in 2 weeks, shocked by how different he looked. He'd lost weight, his usually neat appearance slightly rumpled, but there was something else, a calmness I'd never seen before. His lawyer, David Walsh, sat beside him with neat stacks of documents. My hastily hired attorney, Patricia Chen, seemed overwhelmed by the sheer volume of evidence Adam's team had compiled. Mrs. Markham, the mediator began, you've had time to review the separation agreement. Are you prepared to proceed? I looked at Adam, hoping to see some softness in his expression, some sign that we could work this out privately. Instead, he was looking at his hands, his wedding ring notably absent. I'd like to make a statement first, I said. Adam silenced Walsh. Let her talk. I choked out. Friday was wrong, but I was trying to save us. Adam's eyes were exhausted. Our vows, Leo. Forsake all others. You forgot that part. I never slept with Simon. You invited him into our bed, let him touch you while I watched, told him I made you feel dead. He slid his phone across. Want me to read the texts? Boring. Pathetic. I deserve better. Each word a blade. I worked 60-hour weeks for Sophie's school, the house you wanted, the trips you planned. You kept score, compared me to your ex, built a case. He leaned in. It was never about me. You need drama, worship. I needed peace. We were never a match. Sophie card. She needs stability, not chaos. Terms. Supervised visits. He keeps house and custody, 3 years support. Simon restrained. Sign or lose her completely. I signed. Last words. I loved you desperately. No one could ever be enough. Because it has to come from you. 3 months later. Tiny apartment, distant Sophie, Adam dating Jennifer, laughing the way he once did with me. Simon gone. Mom's blame hollow. I'd demanded worship. Never saw the quiet cherishing. Scrolling old photos, the truth hit. I didn't lose him for not being enough. I lost him for never being grateful. Cut to black.